Welcome to Rocket Ship, the home of epic React Native content. I'm Szymon Rybczak, creator of Galaxies.dev, and today we have a very special guest. I think this is the youngest guest I had on this podcast. Welcome, Szymon Rybczak from Poland.
Hello, it's really a pleasure to be here today. Thanks for having me.
So I think your Twitter bio or X bio already gives it away. 17-year-old React Native developer at Callstack. I think somewhere else you said probably the youngest ever React Native contributor. Exactly. I want to talk today about a lot of things with you, how you got into open source, how you can be so prolific, like unbelievable skilled with 17 years old. I don't exactly know what I did with 17. I mean, I was kind of a nerd and did some programming, but I was definitely not at the level where you are. So I want to learn more about what you do, how you got into open source. And then we're going to later talk about a super interesting topic, as you gave a talk recently about React server components and how they could probably be used with React Native. So this is the broad picture of where we want to go today. But first of all, could you give us a quick introduction of who you are and what you currently do?
Yeah, so my name is Szymon, and as you said, I'm 17 years old, React developer at Callstack, a software agency from Poland. And we are doing a lot of open source, and I'm in the technology team, and I'm trying to help in our R&D and open source initiatives. I'm also maintaining React Native community CLI, and I'm often trying to validate new concepts such as React server components in React Native.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the whole R&D department is like a big playground, I guess. I think this is some of the most interesting stuff, and I could definitely see that I would do the same. I always liked like this initial figuring out phase, but you're definitely on another level, because you said you're 17 years old, and somewhere I read you have like 3 years of experience, which means you really got started with like 14. How did that happen?
Yeah, so that's a long story, but I was always that kid that was bored, and always I didn't know what to do with myself. And someday I found a podcast with one of the Polish entrepreneurs who is running actually the startup. And he started when he was 17, and he started with developing iOS apps. And I thought, actually, that sounds good. Let's talk to the parents and let's buy a MacBook. And that's how I started. And after learning Swift UI, because that was the first technology which I ever started with, I wrote an email to the CEO, this founder of the startup, and he said, "That sounds cool. And yeah, we want you on board." And that's how I started working. Because I heard from few people that working is the best place to learn actual skills as a programmer. It's like you have on daily basis problems that you are encountering, and you're trying to solve, and that's where you're developing your skills the fastest way. So yeah, that's how it started.
Yeah, I think this is totally true. I mean, I can only speak from a limited experience because, to be honest, I've only been employed for like 4 years, probably, if I remember correctly. And then I went like my own route, and I've been self-employed now for 7 years. But during those first 3 years, I learned so much on the job. It's incredible, especially if you're like really good colleagues. And I mean, right now you're with Callstack, so you definitely have great colleagues. I picked up so many things. There was like a genius at our work who could like we were a team of, I don't know, 20 people in that department, and everyone worked on different projects, and like some were Java, some were Swift, some were Python, some were Haskell. And there was this one person, and he could just jump from table to table, and everyone had a problem. He's like, okay, you gotta do this. Okay, next problem, you gotta do this. Like, he was unbelievable smart, and I learned a ton from him, like about Git and how to use like the command line and like just thinking patterns. So yeah, recommendation, of course, for everyone. Don't follow my steps. Definitely work somewhere and get experience with a great team. So that's pretty cool that you actually started with Swift UI. I wanted to correct you and say, didn't you start with like Swift or Objective-C? But yeah, you started 3 years ago. So at that time, Swift.
Yeah, it is often when I'm like telling this story, people ask me, with Swifty, why? It was like released recently. And yeah, actually, yes. And that was my first technology. So yeah. But then I moved to UI Kit. And after that, after like working a few months in the startup, I learned about React Native. And that's where the story happened.
Okay, so yeah, now we're getting to the good part. So how did you? What was that? That was probably when you were like 15 at that time, 16. So actually, at that time, Expo already was okay, I guess. How did
Yeah.
you stumble into React Native, and how did you then continue your path on, especially learning React Native? Because I know you usually don't learn that stuff in school.
Yes, usually, but we are trying to convince our teachers to do not do C++ that much and maybe try some technologies. And actually, we were doing some React Native in the school.
Nice.
Actually, Expo, because it's easier to start a lot. And how it started for me, like my journey wasn't the usual, I would say, because like I was working with iOS app in the startup, and the main product that was whole company depending on was written in React Native and in bare React Native because it was started like I think in 2017, so years already, and at that time expo wasn't the thing that people were choosing, and I just downloaded the code base, and the code base was huge. I didn't understand anything, like I didn't touch ever JavaScript, and here I have like TypeScript, React Native, and yeah, it was hard to learn those concepts, but uh, the colleagues at the startup were really nice, and they were helping me a lot to understand the concepts. And that's how I started with React Native.
So that also means you learned React by learning React Native. How did that go for
Exactly.
you?
So it was like the first time, okay, I know how it works, but then I needed few months of like sitting, creating documentation to just learn how it works under the hood, because I was like, I didn't understand the concept in depth, and that caused a bunch of problems, especially with all the optimization stuff. So yeah, I don't recommend that path, to be honest. And go first learn React, and after that, React Native or Expo.
Yeah, I kind of took a strange path to React as well, and I think I still also need to learn a lot more. But I somehow get along quite well so far. So you picked up React when a React Native when you were 15, 16. I've seen in your timeline that you also now did a lot of contributions to, especially as we said in the beginning, you were the youngest ever React Native contributor. How did all of that get started, and how did you actually make your way into open source? Because I think that's not the first thing you want to do when you like work at a startup and just get into your first React Native project.
Yeah. So for in the meantime, between Callstack and LiveKit, that was a startup I was talking about, I was working in a Polish company who this company is distributing music with the mobile app, and the mobile app is written in Expo. And there I met Oskar Kwaśniewski, who is right now working on React Native for Vision OS. If you are into tech Twitter, you probably saw some demos, what he's working on. And we were only developers there, and we were working on a two apps written in Expo and second in React Native CLI. And after some time, Oscar joined Callstack, and he started maintaining React Native tab view. And one day he wrote, "Hey Sean, I have some quick issues to solve. Do you mind doing it, like in your free time or during lessons or something?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." And I also knew that this library was created by Satya Sahul, who is like one of the most experienced expert at Callstack, and I can truly say in the React Native community. And I received a review from Satya, and it was like really great to see how much mistakes I'm doing, but a new knowledge that I'm getting is like very cool. And that was the first library that I contributed to. And I thought that Callstack is a nice place and they are doing a lot of open source. So maybe I can join Callstack. And then, of course, I needed to do some strange things. So I didn't like write an unusual email to HR. I wrote a message to Grabo, who is our founder. And he said, yes, we'll give you a test that every employee do before joining the company to test your skills. And I passed this test and here I am.
Was it like a coding exercise or like a take home stuff?
Yeah. Coding exercise and some questions, closed questions to check the knowledge from React Native, from React and from native development.
That's so awesome. I mean, just to clarify, you're not working full time for Callstack yet, so nobody's thinking anything wrong. It's all legally safe. You're working the allowed hours for Callstack.
It was really hard to hire me, and a huge shout out to our people and culture team which did a bunch of paperwork and talking with lawyers to make it legally. But yeah, they did it.
Yeah, I think they're very happy that they did it. From what I've seen from your contributions, and also now you're giving a talk already at 17. So I can't highlight this enough. Like, it's great to do all these things once you're like 25 or 30 or 35, but you're already starting this at 17. So I'm pretty sure if you stick to this, you're gonna have a great career, or you can achieve whatever you want if you're already so much driven by that age. So you contributed to React Native. What would you recommend for other people, like if they want to get started? I mean, to be honest, I'm kind of scared. I basically accepted that I'm good at creating content and I'm not really good at like open source contribution. So everyone should figure out what's important and like what they can do. But I wouldn't know exactly where to get started. Like, should I just check out a repository and then look for some open bug, or where would I get started if I wanted to contribute?
Yeah, so especially in React Native, sometimes there are umbrella issues. And the umbrella issues works in a way that there's an issue, and for example, I will say on the Kotlin migration, there were a bunch of tests that were written in Java, and the goal was to migrate them to Kotlin. And to start contributing, there was written a guide, and people just assigned themselves to the specific test, and that's how you started contributing. And I would say that you don't need to understand whole code base, and I don't understand how every part of React Native works, and I'm not trying because it's too hard. And yeah, you just need to understand the part that you want to fix or contribute. There are often issues with a good first issue label, and just try filtering the repository with that label, and maybe there will be an issue that you will be able to solve. And yeah, just take an issue and just start working step by step, and maybe you will contribute. Also, React Native communities was really great. So if you have any problems, you can write a post or you can write a DM to some maintainer, and they will probably help you, and they will probably find a way to solve the problem.
Yeah, to be honest, I think this is on my bucket list. I definitely need to do this one day. Just like, even if I just contribute to like the documentation or something, it's important as well. So maybe at some point this year I'm gonna make this like a challenge for myself to contribute something. But I saw from your contributions that you also contributed a lot to the React Native CLI.
Yes.
Do you like it more than Expo or?
Yeah, so this is a like tricky question because from the historical background, React Native CLI, community CLI right now was living in the core, and there was one initiative called Lean Core when a bunch of modules were migrated out of core to make it as small as possible, and there are still some modules that are tied into core, and core team is trying to move them out. But and one of the modules that was migrated is CLI, and Rebel and Dimaiki, Michał Pieszczała, who are working at Callstack, migrated that part, and they were maintaining and are maintaining from the beginning to today. And that's how Callstack started contributing to and maintaining React Native Community CLI. And when I joined Callstack, I talked with Michał, and he suggested me to that it will be my main task at work to maintain and fix issues with CLI. And a bunch of people ask me, why are you doing so? And like, why? And my answer is really, really simple. Like right now we have a bunch of apps written and bootstrapped with our CLI. And we can't just leave the users. Like there are thousands of apps, thousands of developers, and these apps are shipped to millions of users. And we need to maintain the tool because these huge code bases cannot migrate in one day to Expo, which is really great. I love Expo. Like, there's sometimes people saying that we're hating Expo. No, Expo is really great, and developer experience with it is awesome. The team is awesome, and yeah, probably if I will to start a new app, I will choose Expo. But yeah, to finish, we are maintaining it to support also non-usual cases. Like as of now, Expo doesn't support out of click platforms that much. So if you have to like write macOS app or Windows app, Expo isn't the thing yet, but they are trying to add a support. And I know that Tomek Sapeta, who's on Expo team, is working on that. But it will take a while to add a proper support. But with React Native CLI, you have this, and you can write your macOS or Windows app right now. And also one thing that is important for like more extreme cases and for our clients is brownfield support. So whenever you have a native app and you want to add React Native, it's hard to do that with Expo, and there is no any guide for doing so because this is not usual case, and this is I don't know 0.5% for users, but still you cannot do that with Expo. But for any other cases, actually for the majority, Expo is the thing, and you should use Expo.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I mean, in terms of the differences of the CLIs, I want to get back to that in a second. But also what you just said, I think this is an area I just stumbled upon. I mean, I was always aware that there's this difference between brownfield and greenfield apps. I just read about it the other day. I think greenfield basically means you can start a completely fresh application, like on a green field, and there's nothing else. Whereas brownfield app means they already have, like the company has an application, and you kind of need to integrate React Native into it. I haven't done this part actually myself yet. This brownfield application. Do you have any experience, insight into that, into how complicated it is and how well React Native works, and probably also like why these companies actually want that? Because I mean, they decided at some point to build a Swift application. So why are they now saying, "Oh, let's bring in React Native"?
Yeah, because I think that this is the big companies are changing the mind about React Native. You know, we had this Airbnb article and sunsetting React Native, and it'll like a lot of people still have this article in the mind, but fortunately, a bunch of people are changing their mind and they're deciding to add React Native. And for example, Microsoft in their code bases, they had they have a lot of brownfield apps because to rewrite the whole app, it really requires a bunch of time. But when you are able to add React Native to existing app, it is a faster process. And maybe you can add React Native on top of native app and start migrating part by part your native app to React Native. And at some point you will have React Native app that is actually native.
That would be kind of funny. Like you had still the Swift shell, but everything inside is just React Native.
Exactly. And for brownfield is like it's a tough topic, and it's for advanced users. But we tried at Callstack to make it easier, and I think we have some blog posts. So at Callstack blog from Tomek Misiukiewicz, one of our developers who was working in the R&D team for a few months, and he wrote some Twitter threads how to make it easier for adding React Native. We also have some repositories on how to integrate that. So for everyone who wants to do it, just look at our blog, and there he in details writes step by step how to do so.
Yeah, I will definitely include a link to this in the show notes. Just like in general, I assume from what you say, it's not as easy as like dropping in a view and say, this is my React Native portal and everything in here is React Native. It requires more configuration and a lot more steps, I guess.
Yes. But at Microsoft, they're trying to make it easier. And in our next kit, they have some tools with which adding React Native to native app is easier, and also upgrading is easier, because like upgrading bare CLI app without native is hard and takes some time. But if you add the native part, it's even harder. So they have some tools. So for anyone who wants to add it, it may be a thing to explore. And also we have this described in the blog posts.
Yeah, I've in the past used Ionic and Capacitor, so other cross-platform tools, and I know that they also at some point developed a solution, a paid solution to at some point even drop in a React Native app in a native app. Like I think they called it portals. I know portals are a different thing in the React world, so yeah. But there are solutions. They are not easy. Let's say like
Yes.
that. So I just want to come back one last time to the CLI. Because you have a lot of insights into the React Native community CLI, but on the other hand, you most likely have also worked with the Expo CLI. So do you, or are you aware of any other differences between those CLIs besides what you already mentioned, that you like can't easily build Mac OS apps?
So I think that every Expo library works with bare CLI, except from Expo Router, because Expo Router is tied to Expo CLI. But yeah, these are those two tools to manage your React Native apps. And if you were bootstrapping up with Create Expo app, then you should probably use Expo CLI. But if you have any custom setup out of you have out of tree platforms or brownfield setup, the React Native community CLI is the thing that you should use.
Okay, yeah, that's a fair recommendation to wrap it up. So, you gave a talk in December, which was called, what was it called? It was called, I had it.
Yeah, bringing React Server components to React Native.
Exactly. So, my point of view on React Server components in the past has always been, I'm a mobile developer. I don't care what you guys on the web are tinkering out. I don't care about your server components. But it looks like I have to rethink this after watching your talk and seeing some videos from Theo, who also talked about this, I think, at the last Chain React. There's also a YouTube video where he mentioned a bright future for React Native server components. So maybe we can start at the really basic level for idiots like me, because I try to keep away from them as far as possible. Could you just briefly explain what React server components are? Not yet related to React Native, just like the general concept. And like, it is super hyped on Twitter for like the last, I don't know, year or so, but maybe like regular people still haven't encountered it or still haven't heard about it.
Yeah, so React server components is a topic that is very popular, but when it comes to like describing, it's hard because like the concept evolved in many ways, and yeah, so I will try to describe it as simple as possible. So React server components are adding new layer. From now, we can like execute our React component on a server, and it allows us to access database, access files on the system from React component. And this unlocks React developers to develop full stack apps. Actually, React developers can write an application from A to Z with the front end and the back end. And that is a great thing. But the architecture of React server components allows us to make a lot of optimizations. So if the component is executed on the server, we are streaming only parts that are displayed. So we are not shipping the unused code to the client. And in web, it is a game changer because on web, we need to have a small bundle size as possible to get website as fast as possible. And with React server components, it is solving this problem. And yeah, this is the concept of server components.
I only have one question about the server components, because I've seen some examples and stuff. Some part of the code of our React code is then executed in the server and accessing file system, database, and doing this. Who is actually like splitting up that file? Is there like a compiler that splits this up and says, okay, this part will only be on the server and this part will never be shipped to the client?
Yeah, so there's this directive called that works in a way that you're adding use server or use client on top of your functions or on top of your file, and then bundler is the key thing here. Know where it should bundle and where it should put the components or actions. So yeah.
Okay, so I kind of get this for the web. It kind of makes sense. For native, the benefit you mentioned in terms of bundle size is probably something mobile app developers usually don't care about.
Exactly.
So why is it still interesting for React Native?
Exactly. Like a lot of people say when I'm trying to discuss this topic that actually in React Native it doesn't make sense because like you are downloading app once, like you are downloading binary app with JavaScript once from the App Store, and then it just exists on your phone and you don't care. Yeah, that's absolutely true, and I agree. But React server components in React Native allows us to do other things. And fun fact is that I found a tweet from Sebastian Markavich, who is on React team. And he said that actually React server components were initially designed and meta for server-driven technologies on native. So what are the benefits? And in my opinion, the one that will change the game and one that is Fia talking about is doing a one step forward in the process of releasing app. So we right now, as a React Native developers, we have two ways of distributing our app. First way is a standard way where we are building a binary app and then we are submitting it to the App Store or Google Play Store, and then we are fighting with Apple or Google to deploy our app to the stores. And that is not the best process, but at some point everyone needs to do it. But thanks to React Native architecture, we have OTA, which stands for over-the-air update. So release React Native app contains a binary code and a JavaScript bundle. And thanks to OTA, we can remotely replace the bundle. So whenever we have a critical bug or we need to change some minor things, we can use over-the-air updates and we can skip the submission by the Apple. And that's great. But here we need to replace the whole bundle. And when you are on a big team or working on a big app, the bundle is few megabytes and yeah, that's not the best. But with server components, we can iterate on the component level. So imagine that you can update, I don't know, tab bar component, you are adding new tab bar icon, and then you are submitting, you are making your change, you are bundling it, and on new entry to the application, the new bundle for this one component is downloaded, not the whole bundle for the whole application, which is a few megabytes, just one tiny component that will be very fast downloaded, even on low internet connection.
So we basically will have like an initially loading shell. I think that's what you call it in your talk. And then like some parts that are not required instantly could be replaced by React Server components then.
Exactly. And people are often saying that with server components on React Native, we'll lose the native UX. And we all love native UX of the application because that's why we are using React Native. If we wouldn't love it, we will use Flutter. But we love native apps, the feeling of the native application. And with React Server components, we won't lose the native UX. The components that will be received from a server will also be translated to the native component. It wouldn't be a web view or something like this. It will be a native component. And also, when developing the framework for server components on native or implementing them, we need to keep in mind that we can't allow the situation that we enter the app and the screen is blank. We need to have in client bundle always, whenever you have internet connection or you have low internet connection, we need to have like activity indicators, loaders, to just show it to the user, to not show the blank screen. And with that, the end experience of the application with React Server components and without will be the same, but the performance optimization is a game changer and app will be a lot faster.
Yeah, I think this concept is kind of mind blowing and requires like a mindset shift in terms of how you compose your application of different elements that are like immediately native or loaded from a server. I really wonder what the technology and the flow looks like, because these components are not just hosted on a server and are not just like HTML. They actually need to get into the React Native app and become native views. So in a second, maybe we can talk about some implementation details, but I can definitely see the value of this, of not updating, even although we have over-the-air updates, not updating everything, but just a button, just like trying out a marketing text copy or really small changes and iterating on them. Um, this, I mean, this will be super interesting, but what are the main problems we currently have with that approach? Because in fact, it's not yet reality.
Yes, it's just the concept, and we are validating it, and we are starting discussions, because like React Native and web has other techniques for the networking, and web is a lot ahead because in React Native we're focusing on different things. And yeah, sorry, what was the
I mean,
question?
the main technical problem in making
Okay,
React server components a reality for React Native.
so for the problem is hosting and making the process as easy as possible. So when there will be a framework or library that will adopt server components, the ease of update of implementing needs to be very simple. Like the typical developer is not able to host a server, to write some plugin, to think about it. The framework is the key part, and the bundler and the navigation. The developer experience when using it needs to be very simple and very developer friendly to make this concept successful.
So a minute ago, you also said that the native app needs to have something when it initially loads. I just try to imagine like the smallest possible native app shell. Basically, you start the app and you have like a white Swift screen or whatever and a loading indicator until you have a connection. Do you think an app like that could be possible where you really have like only a super tiny initial shell with basically nothing and loading completely everything else using RSC?
So actually, I need to correct this. So except from the loaders, we need to have like navigators, and imagine like Twitter app, and that is the example that I can explain this topic, and I think everyone will understand. So when we are opening the app, the experience is that we have loaded and cached posts, and we don't have a blank screen. We have a list with some cached posts that were fetched some time ago, and now we are waiting for the new request. And also we have tab bar, we have navigators that are accessible. And with React Server components, with new model, those navigators, those cached posts will be there, because like caching is the key thing here. Like I really simplified this with saying that, yeah, we need only activity indicator. In the real life world, we will need a lot more thing, and it will depend on the app use case. But yeah, all things that needs to be clickable and accessible for users immediately before we had the server component needs to be after adding this directive.
But who says so? So is I mean, I know the laws and the requirements by Apple that a native app should basically or mostly, I don't know how they like exactly explain it, should work without making huge calls to a server, which basically says you can't load your whole application from a server and display any kind of dynamic content. But for example, just the other day, Guillermo from Vercel posted an example where, like, I think it's the DoorDash app or something, which just doesn't work offline. And I mean, it's the same if I start Clash of Clans on my iPhone, it won't work offline. Like, I need a connection. So for these apps that use React Native or server components, I mean, they could also say like you're offline, this won't work, and the whole app only works if you're online, and then we can still download everything. Do you think like this is a problem or this won't be allowed?
It is allowed, and Apple cannot block it. But the difference, what is Guillermo was saying, and I think Evan from Expo was like describing it like when you don't have internet connection on web, you have literally blank screen. But when you don't have internet connection on native app and you properly implement your caching, you are still able to navigate through navigators and see cached but still a content. So it depends on the implementation, but native app with proper implementation without internet connection is not the same as the website, and that's the difference.
Okay, yeah, I see the point. Yeah, so I'm definitely excited about the concept of React Server Components with React Native. At your talk, I think you said you are working on an example, but correct me if I'm wrong. Are you already at that phase, or like how far are we?
Yeah, so I had a break in implementing this, but yeah, I might some post soon something. So yeah, make sure to follow the tech Twitter, and we might release something. Definitely a very interesting space, and yeah, we'll see in the future what this year will bring to us.
I think I'm not sure if it was in that talk, but I took a note that you said 2024 will be a year of universal apps. I don't know if these are your words or
Yeah,
so
yeah.
could you explain what you think is going on this year or what you hope to see?
Yeah, this is the one of the hot takes I sometimes post on the Twitter while being on lesson and while I'm bored. So yeah, I know that Expo is strongly working on this. So we have React Native, and with React Native, we are able to ship to multiple platforms with basically one code base without compromises. The end user experience is the same as native. But when shipping React Native for web, it's tricky because React Native for web is that doesn't contain the same concepts as the, for example, Next.js app today. But what the community is trying to do is to bring React Native for web new concept, server components, SSR, all these things to truly make a universal app with one code base. So one code base shipped to native platforms and web without compromises, without saying that React Native for web is it and you shouldn't use it.
Yeah, that's really the ultimate dream, and I'm also kind of convinced that we're gonna move closer to this in 2024. We will probably not have like the final solution to it, but I feel we're moving in the right direction here as well.
Exactly.
I had two more questions I wanted to bring up. The first, I'm not sure if you can answer, but this was related to over-the-air updates. And when you gave your talk, I just had this question in my mind because with React Native over-the-air updates, we can like replace stuff in the JS bundle. As you said, you can like fix a button, fix a bug. My question would be, is there a limit to what you can do with over-the-air updates? And I don't mean I understand that I can't add a new plugin, like I can't add React Native Vision Camera because this is like native code and requires stuff. But could I essentially like build a completely different JS bundle experience? Could I exchange the whole bundle?
It is tricky, and I think we need some blog post which will describe this in detail. Because a lot of people is concerned about this, and the key thing is that if you do something wrong, App Store can ban your app from the App Store, and for the business, it can be painful. So when it comes to over-the-air updates, in my perspective, like fixing bugs, adding minor things will be okay. But when we are adding new features or features that Apple law is not okay with it, it can be it Apple can be angry on this and can ban your app. So we need to be careful and yeah, when it comes to big things that can be not okay with Apple law, we need to be really careful because the game is about our app and our business. So yeah.
Yeah, it's an unfair fair game. Both Apple and Google do basically what they want, and I guess my question was just like, how far can we take things? How far can we go? But I think the recommendation for everyone is just don't try to overstep the border. And like, if you add a major new feature, just be safe, be on the safe side, and just release a new version through the iOS and Google Play review. Because in those cases, if they don't like it, they can say it, and otherwise it will just be available after a few days.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so that brings me to my last point, and that is something I stumbled upon the other day. This is regarding to micro front ends, and I know that Callstack has worked or has this thing called Repack going on. As far as I
Yes.
know, Repack is basically a different bundler. It's using Webpack instead of Metro, as far as I understood.
Exactly.
And so you can have like micro front ends. I used this before. It's kind of not hard to set up micro front ends with module federation. Like you can piece together React and Vue and solid front ends and combine all of them in one project. Um, have you tried Repack, or have you seen it being used, and
Of
how well does it work?
of course, I tried and I was contributing to Repack. We have a lot of clients they're adopting a Repack. Unfortunately, because of the NDAs, I can't say the names, but
Sure.
these are big players. And as you said, Repack allows us to use module federation and bundle splitting in release apps right now with React Native. And I was, if we are talking about my demo with React Server components, and um, if I will be, if I will be publishing something, I will be publishing the demo with Repack. So, so yeah, Repack is the thing, and yeah, it's great to see that actually React Native has other bundlers because of course we have Metro that is a default bundler, but we have also Repack and we have Vite integration. I think that is experimental right now, but we are experimenting with new bundlers, new features, and maybe new optimizations. So it's great to see it.
So I approached it, of course, from the point of like the module federation, but from you having seen it in the reality, what are the other like core features of using Repack, or why are companies using it? Like, are there specific reasons to use it over Metro?
You have also over the year updates set. You can also set up over the year updates with Repack. But yeah, like Repack is of course not for every app, and you probably need to have like very complicated setup to use Repack, and it's solving some problems, but it's not solving all problems. So yeah, you need to like go through the materials that we are publishing, and also recently we actually 1 year ago I think not recently time flies we published a super apps demo example. It is a repository that is using Repack with module federation, with all examples, the code sharing, and everything, and how you can set it up with across teams. So yeah.
Yeah, I think super app is the term most people use for these like apps using multiple micro frontends and module federation. And but from what I saw or read and what you say, like using Repack and that sort of setup is like that will only help if you're a company of, I don't know, 40 developers. It won't really change things if you're like 3 or 5 developers working on an app, right?
Yes, probably yes.
Okay, good. So that's good to know. But for everyone who's working at a company which has like problems at this scale, definitely also check out Repack. So that already brings us to the end. I'm honestly, I'm so happy that you've been here, Szymon. Not only because we share the same name, you have like the Polish version of Simon, uh,
Exactly.
but also because my mind is still blown that you, as a 17-year-old, had absolutely no problem in talking 40 minutes here on a podcast in a language that is not your first language about a topic that is not easy. So I hope to see a lot more from you in the future. And I think you're a great addition to the React Native and the whole React ecosystem. So thank you so much for taking the time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me and thanks for the invite.
Yeah. So where can people find out more about all the cool things you do and you're working on right now?
Of course, on Twitter, twitter.com/Szymon Rybczak, and I'm trying to post there very often stuff that we are cooking at Callstack.
Great. I also, by the way, is also X and Twitter. So for everyone in the future listening,
Exactly.
are you cooking up any or preparing any future talks after your React talk in Berlin?
I don't know. We'll see. But if I am to, I will probably talk about server components.
Nice. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that. So thanks again for joining me, and hopefully maybe at the end of 2024 we have another episode and then cover how you can implement server components with React Native. Hopefully. So thanks and goodbye.
Bye.